Hey guys, it's Oskip, and seeing as my previous video on Felix was so well received, I thought I would continue on the topic and recreate and transform his entire base. I continued building in the same world across the other side of the water and began doing some basic terraforming. Thankfully, the landscape already had a similar shape to Felix's actual world, and so with a few edits I was able to get something similar. The first place to begin is with his house. I used a combination of watching through his videos and some other people's versions of recreating his house to get the complete result.
It's all about humanity.
I started putting down some pathways and then included his heated pool to the side of the house. I continued to bring the walkway out, added in his Nether Portal and grave for water sheep, and finally added some lines for farming space. I added some fences for the animals and then the Swedish flag against the side of the terrain. I then came round to the back and started building Ikea Tower. This was the most difficult to replicate accurately, as he never fully inspects the build, as he can't get a good angle on it because of the height of the tower. But I was able to roughly work out the height by distancing per block and then work from there onward. I finished up by replicating the IKEA logo he created using banner patterns. I then scattered in some grass and trees into the environment to fill up some space. And then began working on Jürgen's stable. It doesn't include any of the redstone, but it has the same aesthetic vibe. I then place a cylindrical base and create the famous Swedish meatball. Now, keeping things up to date was the most difficult part about this build, which you'll see later as a reoccurring problem. I had to keep updating it with each episode that came out, making small adjustments here and there. Now I start designing and building Watersheep's church, which at the current time was accurate. However, it will also need future edits eventually to transform into the current version of the church. I replaced the giant meatball in the back after finishing the church, and then come down to the basement of his house to complete the bunker and storage room. Now this was where some drastic changes came into play. I edited the shape of Watersheep's and Jürgen's grave, and made further adjustments to the portal area, wooden walkway and farms. Finally, coming back to the church, it was time to change up the design to the newer version, adding in the flowing water and changing everything into mossy stone. I then update the design on the inside and add some walls and lanterns. I make some adjustments to the flag and terrain, bringing the walkway out and including the path. I also pulled the portal out by a few blocks, and that's just about everything. Now I believe I managed to recreate everything in his base. At the time of this recording, however, I know that he created a statue of Jürgen, which I didn't get to recreate. However, later on I do manage to squeeze in a statue of him in the upgraded version. Anyway, that's Felix's entire base. Now that that's done, it's time for the fun stuff. I first started upgrading his house, however I wasn't really certain how I wanted to approach this. I tried keeping a similar design to the way that he built it, but I researched online into typical Swedish houses and this style of house came up quite a lot, so I thought that I would give Felix a traditional Swedish house. It's quite different from his version, I know, but I wanted to try something different. I kept the Tree of Life in the centre of the house. I just made some manual edits to make it sprawl out further and bigger. I capped off the roof and added 2 windows to give the tree some natural light. I used a few designs in this video that I picked up from Jeracraft that he featured in one of his videos incorporating the new blocks from 1.14. He made use of the blocks in some creative ways, such as this jukebox I added into the corner of the room and a few others featured later on in the video. I'll link his video down in the description below so that you guys can use his design tips as well. I place in some campfires beneath the blast furnaces to give off that smoke animation and create a designated blacksmithing area. On the other side, I add in campfires beneath the smokers again and create a designated kitchen oven. I add in some storage chests back into the walls and then create this walk-in freezer to store food. By using the campfires once again for that smoke animation, I was able to make this little chimney stack on the roof of the house. Now I only made some small changes to the pool as I couldn't go any deeper into the ground due to the walk-in freezer beneath. Instead, next to the pool I made a little jacuzzi using magma blocks for the bubbles and campfires beneath, once again creating that smoky steamy effect. Now it was time for the sad part of the video. I knew that I had to do them justice and I wanted to create a personalised graveyard for all of the fallen heroes. Now again, unfortunately I will edit this later due to recent updates, Jürgen 2 and Bernie, but I finish up by adding in a custom tree for Jürgen. Now it was time for the Nether Portal. I knew that I wanted to move it up on top of the cliff edge, but I wasn't sure where else to go from there. I opted to building these 2 statues either side of the portal, again link in the description to check out Jeracraft's video, and then scattered around some nether, magma blocks and lava to make it appear like the corruption was spreading from the portal. And again, back to the sad part. I extended the graveyard to make more room and added in the new graves for Jürgen 2 and Bernie using their favourite blocks. I absolutely love these new lanterns that they added into the game, and decided to make this street light to scatter around and light up the place. I make a fence for the farm using the wavy pattern design that I featured on the Japanese house. I decided to change the square cutout of water into a little pond filled with exotic fish and coral. I made some small edits to the farms and then converted the grass fields either side of the pathway into wheat fields. Now it was time to edit the Ikea Tower. I knew for this building that I wanted to keep the original design and tried my best not to deviate too much. I started by adding logs as support beams to break up the grey structure and replace most of the cobblestone with stone bricks. I created this 4-way peaked roof design and then managed to create a giant Swedish flag made up of about 15 banners and then replicated that on each side of the tower. I continued up the tower and added in the famous IKEA logo, of course. Finally, I created this extremely peaked roof, and atop it I added a Swedish flag blowing in the wind. I managed to keep roughly the same shape as the original design, and am happy with how things turned out, to be honest. I decided to relocate the stable and add it onto the end of the footpath. I really like the idea of using hay bales along the roof, and then change the cobble out for dark wood instead. Inside, I made these 2 personal sections for Dinnerbone and presumably Jürgen 3, and added a gated section for the other animals, which I ended up changing the cows for pigs. It was time to edit the Church of Watershed. I ended up researching into different church designs and came across a Minecraft church someone else designed. I liked the style of it so much that I had to use it and make personal adjustments and changes. I had the water flowing down the front of the church coming out of the window, and also had it coming down inside the church as well. Keeping the open plan design for the sheep to roam free, I added in a chandelier above to light up the area, and out back a circular window atop the archway. Adding in some flower pots on shelves and bushes around the church, I think that completes the Church of Watershed. Right, now this is where things got interesting. I knew what I had planned for the meatball and researched into the Atlas statue. I wanted to create a giant statue of a man holding up the meatball above his head. I know, sounds cool, right? I got the chest down as a basis and worked down from there, creating the legs with him kneeling. To go somewhere new. I then started working on the head, trying to get the right proportion for the rest of the body. I placed it on and then started working up the arms that would support the glorious meatball. Finally, I decided to place him on a plinth with a sign beneath, and lastly, randomize the dirt sphere with different brown blocks to give it more texture. I knew that I had to add back in the Swedish flag that I deleted earlier, but I decided to put it up on an actual flagpole this time. And with that, I thought I was done. That was until he released his latest episode where he builds Jürgen a statue, which of course I couldn't leave out. Due to this being so last minute and delaying this video further, I found a Crusader design online and ended up using that with some small personal tweaks. I'll leave the original design down in the description. And with that, we're done here. I hope that you all enjoyed the video, and if you did, show some love and support down below in the comments and by leaving a like. If you're new around here, then subscribe for more stuff like this and any future builds that I have coming along the way. Lastly, check me out on Patreon. I'll leave the link in the description below. It's where I have the download link for this world and all of my previous builds as well. Apart from that, I hope that you all enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!